We are back here live for another installment of Heavy Muscle Radio on this August 9th, 2021 afternoon. I'm here with Chris, the technician Aceto. We'll be joined a little later by John Romano and John Hansen, who was out at the Tampa Pro this past weekend, wrapping things up. And Chris, what's going on over there in Maine?
Just, digesting the bad news.
Yeah. John, I think... I was going to say Ian VALLIERE was the story of the weekend, and then, of course, we got the terrible news yesterday that our good friend John Meadows had passed in his sleep. I still haven't gotten all the details of what exactly happened, but it's, Chris, we say this almost every single week, as unfortunate as that sounds, that we lose someone else in our industry, and I'm speechless. This one hurt a little bit more than some of the others. Not that I kind of had a relationship with him, not where we would talk every single day, but something connected there. We had a very similar mindset about the bodybuilding world and our passion for the sport. And I know he affected a lot of people. He's going to be missed.
Yeah, John Meadows is there's different levels of goodness. There's different levels of character, and I think John Meadows was the type of person who gave. He shared his knowledge. He was genuine. He was not selfish. He was a great bodybuilder. He was an example of a bodybuilder. Quote, no genetics to get in your pro card. He overcame so many things with his health. He coached people and did it because he loved it. He's the type of person that you put into the category of like a Jay Cutler, just high character. He's beloved, So, people pass in the sport and it is a big deal, but John Meadows was like a beloved person by so many people in the sport because he never had a negative thing to say about anyone else. And he was in it because he loved it. And it showed. And, the people who worked with him or even just got a chance to interact with him on a regular basis know exactly what I'm talking about. And, when you write the obituary for somebody, it's great to be put up there like, champion bodybuilder or superb coach, but it's another to be put up there, beloved by not only family and friends, but people you barely know.
Oh, no, you're right. John Hansen's joining us now from Tampa, Florida. John, we're talking about John Meadows' death right now and the impact it will have on the industry.
Yeah. I didn't know John as well as a lot of other people, but he was such a great guy and so giving in the industry. I loved watching his videos, and he was just such a good person as far as just helping people out. And it's such a loss. It really is such a loss, especially for him to go so early.
Yeah, it was a big shock, and it's not that John had come on the show and they had talked about he had a heart attack a year ago and he had a vascular issue his whole life. He had the colon removed earlier in his life because of a vascular blockage there, and that's something similar to what happened to his heart. He had a vascular blockage. There was some damage to his heart, and he had said that his heart was actually remodeling itself and it had been on the mend. And he was, encouraged, and the doctors were encouraged by that. So I thought he was kind of out of the woods on this. Now, like I said, we don't really know what happened. So I'm assuming until they do an autopsy, we won't really have a cause of death. But there's a lot of freak things that happen. Who knows? This COVID out there. We don't know what happened. Or John was at the Chicago Pro 2 weeks ago. So I don't know if he was exposed to anything there. We'll find out obviously when the autopsy comes back. But it's just terrible to lose someone in an industry where there's not a lot of like really good people. There's a lot of self-serving people out there. And John was the kind of guy that, he made good money doing what he did. But the reason he made good money was because he was passionate and he loved what he did. And that energy kind of was exuded from him. And I think people like to surround themselves with someone who has that kind of, positive, aura around them, if that makes sense.
Yeah, he just seemed like he was genuinely just a good guy. He really wanted to help people, and you know, like you said, he did this for a living, of course. But you know, you could tell his passion came from you know, from his heart, and he was really interested in helping people. So I think that's why. And you know, I was on Facebook yesterday when it was announced, and everybody was just talking about what a great person he was. You know, and it was the same kind of sentiment from everybody. Because everybody who worked with him or who knew him knew what a great guy he was.
I think also, well, John, let me get your impression on the loss of John Meadows, and then we can.
Shocking. I mean, it's just one of those things you're just not expecting to hear anytime soon, but then boom, there it is, and it's like, whoa, you know, and I know it kind of kicks a lot of us, especially us older guys, you know, that have made it this far, thinking back, you know. What all of what we did to ourselves as bodybuilders for the decades that we've done this, and you know, you're seeing guys like John and I mean, several people over the course of the last year, you know, out of nowhere, and it just kind of makes you think, and it makes you really appreciate, you know, where we are right now, and hopefully, man, everybody's taking care of themselves and doing their you know, running their blood work, checking their blood pressure, taking care of themselves, because a lot of guys don't. And I know John did. And even under the best of circumstances, these things happen. And I know there's a lot of guys out there that don't pay any attention to their health whatsoever. And if this isn't a wake-up call, nothing is.
You know, it's weird because it was unexpected. And I think when we get these unexpected deaths that we're not, you know, some people are sick and we know that they're sick. I don't think really John, I mean, aside from the heart issue he had the last year, we really hadn't, he seemed like he was doing well and he was going for checkups and everything like that, but you never know when it's your time. And that's why it's so important to do what you love to do. I tell people that all the time. Don't wait till tomorrow to do it, or next week, or when your kids graduate high school. You got to do it now. That's the take home message.
Well, you know, we watched Russ DeLuca, you know, wrestle with his illness for months and months. So when we found out he passed away, it was horrible, but it wasn't like out of nowhere. You know, we knew the guy was battling major disease. You know, and it was touch and go there for a long time. But John was, you know, just out of nowhere. It's like flipping off a light switch. And now he's here, now he's not. You know, and it's just. It pulls us all down into a realm of, whoa, what the fuck, man? You know, and it just feels heavy is all I can say. That's the best adjective I can give you.
And being a parent now myself and having young kids, I have to, you know, I never in the past wouldn't have maybe hit me as hard, but I see his young kids, he's still got, you know, relatively young kids and a wife he leaves behind. And those are the people who are really going to be the sufferers in this whole thing, because you know, they don't have their dad anymore. And obviously, you know, John was probably making a very good living. You know, that's going to put a strain on financially, I'm sure, on the family a little bit. Hopefully he saved, you know, some good money. But it's the next generation that really, you know, pays the price in a sense. Because, I mean, I lost my mom when I was 14, and that was tough enough. And so I have to imagine that, you know, his boys are probably, you know, pretty sad at this point.
Yeah, devastated.
I think he was coaching too, wasn't he, Dave? Wasn't he coaching football too? He was really passionate about that. Like,
I didn't even know he coached football. Yeah, I didn't know. That's cool.
Yeah, I heard him on an interview like a year ago, and he was really passionate about that. He was excited about coaching these young kids. His son might have been on the team.
Right.
He was really into it. So imagine how many kids' lives he touched with that too, you know?
Oh yeah. Well, he was a good coach. And when you're a good coach, you can coach anything pretty much, you know?
Yeah, right.
Because you get excited about it. It's like, you know, I watch my son playing soccer. You know, he's going to start soccer, and he's just playing around in school, and I'm like already yelling, you know, do this, do that, you know, because you get into it. You want to see, you like to watch young kids learn, and I think it's just if you have a natural ability to teach people things, it's only natural to gravitate wherever you are. If he's in bodybuilding, fine. If his kids want to play football, fine. If they want to play, you know, volleyball, he'll coach volleyball. He's one of those guys that would study the book, you know, and read the internet at night, so that the next day of practice he would know what to do, you know, that kind of thing.
Yeah, he was like that too, because he talked about that in the interview. You know, so that's exactly what he was like.
I mean, all of us here are pretty much like that, right? I mean, we're all like, I'm sure Chris your kids go to track meets. You're probably reading up on like what the best hurdling technique is or whatever your kids are doing. Do a triple jump. Get a little more lift off the board.
I don't believe in the cross coaching ability, so I just make sure that they're there on time. That's the best I can do is make sure they're there on time, and then I tell them to listen to the coach, and then I go to the coach, and I tell them, don't be afraid to threaten them, whatever that means. You know what I mean?
I tell my son started fight class. I tell the guy all the time. He's like a military guy. I'm like, you could I don't care what you tell. You could scare the crap out of my son.
That's right. I'm not going to be one of these parents where like we're suing you. Mr. Aceto told me.
No coddling.
No, I encourage it actually. Yeah.
Coddling ruins generations.
Yeah. You know that stupid machine that you kind of like put like 50 cents in and you have to control the arm and it goes down and it picks up like a stuffed animal, lifts it up and brings it back.
And programmed to never win.
Yes, you never win. So my son's in fight class and they have one of these things in the actual MMA gym. And my two daughters are watching, him do the fight class. And I know he's aware. He's obsessed with that machine, because he thinks it's free. He doesn't know that I have to money actually is costs money. So while he's doing it, my daughter says, "I want to do the machine." So I'm like, "All right, whatever. I'll put whatever it is. I'll put the 50 cents in and let her play the machine." And because she's 3, she doesn't know what she's doing, right? So she's doing the thing, moving it around, and you got to hit the button when you want the thing to go down and pick up the thing. And she wants this one leopard thing there. Of course, she's not going to get it, right? So she pushes the button. And the thing goes down and it picks the thing up and it lifts it up. I'm like, it's gonna fall off. And it brings it over. And not only does it get the leopard, there's another animal stuck to it. She gets 2 things and it dumps it. It's the first time I've ever seen anyone win this game. My son hears the little bell go off. Ding, 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 because she won, right? He almost left the class to come run back to see what she won. And of course, after the class was over, he wanted to pump $20 into the thing, to see if he could win too, which of course he couldn't. So, it is what it is.
I don't miss those days at all.
No.
My son,
so the coach is like, get back in here, Logan. He listens to him. He doesn't listen to the word I say. So thank God he listens to the coach.
Well, thank God. Max came over yesterday. I said, for dinner, I go, make the salad.
He's at the fun stage now because he's older,
He's at the fun stage.
Right.
21 is the fun stage.
He tortured the crap out of you before that, though.
Oh, God. That was fucking hard. Yeah.
Oh, by the way, before we do the Tampa Pro wrap up, there was a guy who I interviewed last week. He was on Iron Rage with Lee Priest. He's Felix Garay. He comes on the show a lot. I think I mentioned to you, John.
Yeah.
He's involved in some of the underground steroid labs in Mexico, and he's like my man on the street, so to speak. Well, he got kidnapped yesterday. Remember, I told you he got kidnapped by the cartel. He's actually out though. I'm happy to announce he's back home. I told you that.
You
did tell me that.
It's a message.
Good.
Yep.
So what did they do? Try to scare the crap out of you, John?
Well, I know 5 people that got kidnapped in Mexico. They did the same thing. They lock you up in a room. They scare the shit out. One guy got tortured pretty well.
Oh, no. I'm glad he didn't get tortured though. He's back home.
2 of them got killed, but statistically, if you get kidnapped in Mexico, you're getting out because it's going to repeat. They're going to. He went on your show and badmouthed 2 companies, 3 could something like that.
Maybe that's
what they did is they go to the local mafia boss and they go, hey man, because you can't go to the cops,
right?
That's ridiculous. So you got to go to the neighborhood peacekeeper and you got this is what happened. All right, call him in. If you won't come in, they go get him.
I got you. That's
what they did. They went and got him. You can't do this anymore. Apologize, give him 10 grand, whatever, and then go out the door. You come back here again, we're cutting your arm off. And
that's good. Chris, it's good to know if you're ever in Mexico and you get kidnapped.
Yeah, I'm okay at Maine, Dave.
Well, let's talk about John. You were at the Tampa Pro this past weekend, as you are every year.
Yeah,
and it was a good battle. Ian VALLIERE wins the show. Do you agree with the decision? Give us your insights on everything that went down.
Yeah, he definitely wasn't as conditioned as he needs to be for the Olympia, and I'm sure he's going to get more dialed in, for the next show. I think he's doing the one in Texas next. I'm sure he'll.
Oh, he is competing again. Okay.
Yeah, he wants to go up against Kuklo, and then he's going to do the Olympia. But he did make really good improvements. I thought his physique looked great. He was full. He was big. He's very well balanced. And, it's not like he was totally off. You could see the lines coming in, even in his glutes and stuff, as he was hitting the poses. But Philip Claher, who was second, was definitely more ripped, and he thought he was going to pull an upset. So it looked close. It wasn't close on the judges' scorecard, but if you go just by conditioning, Philip had him for sure. But I thought Ian had a better physique.
Yeah, I mean, after all, I think a lot of people don't realize, and Chris, you and I have talked about this and before. Sometimes just being the most conditioned guy, and I love conditioning. I'm a conditioning guy. Sometimes being conditioned the most, I was always the most conditioned guy on stage. It doesn't mean you're going to win the show because there are other factors that come into play. Explain why you think, Chris, the judges went unanimously with Ian Valliere.
Well, Ian Valliere is going to stop posting those Instagram pictures. Remember I said it last year?
Yeah.
Why is for the same reason I'd give him the nod, but Phil Clare, who's fabulous as well, is simply that it's an improved Ian Valliere. He's big, he's wide. These are the attributes, big legs, big front lat spread, big side tricep. And I think he's in, for that size, I think it's his best condition, or it's definitely that condition complements that size. So he added size, and a lot of people who add size would come in either the same condition or inferior condition. And he came in this year bigger than he was last year, with better condition than he had last year. So it's a quote new look in that it's improved in both of those categories. Size. And this condition beats his last year's condition. I just think that, when you look at the full package, he was improved, the best he's been. That's a great shot. Front lat spread's really good shot for him. He's wide. He's got full lats.
Yeah.
He's got flaring quads. He's doing the best that he's got with what he's got. In other words, he probably can't get as tight as Phil. Or if he does, we're going to say, well, he lost because he gave up the fullness. He was stringy. He was peeled out of his mind. So to me, it's a winning look. It's a good look. It's his best look. And I hear what John's saying about, condition, because sometimes people at the Olympia, right, traditionally Phil, people come to the Olympia in like mind-numbing condition. A lot of times the top three, we're bewildered by their level of conditioning. But this is his best. I think the back double is markedly improved. The hamstring development, the hamstring cords, the lower back, mid back. I thought he was the winner. And
he's got glutes. Too. He's definitely
does.
Lean. I think sometimes when you see these guys next to another guy who's
glasses, he's definitely.
When you see like an Ian Valliere sometimes next to a guy who's ultra fibery, grainy, you might say he's not conditioned enough, but for his physique, and Chris, you made a very good point, he is conditioned enough, because if he comes down too much more, he flattens out, and then he loses the fullness to his physique and the wow factor, which is what I think he did last year when he lost to Hunter Labrada, right?
Yeah. Does he remind you a little bit of Jay, Chris?
Oh yeah, he can't get into that shot. It's so funny you say that, because he's got the traps, and it's hard for him to get into that shot. It was always hard for Jay to bring the elbows back.
Yeah.
Romano would love to see him twist his head, but
yeah, what's with the no head turn, John?
These guys don't learn. Everybody's doing is winning their shows. You think they would start getting the message, But now let me ask you, Chris, if you peeled off that little film that's over him to graduate to the grainy look, how much really do you think of his mass you'd have to sacrifice to get that?
John, it's such a good question, because you don't know. I just think that some people, can get you know, when they try to go to the next like mind-numbing level of condition, physique falls apart. You know, I mean, I think that's why I just said I think he's hard enough, and that doesn't mean he's not hard.
Right.
I think it complements. You know, I mean, you got people like Phil Klahar, we're going to talk about next, who can go to that next level where it gets like, holy smokes, that's hard. But a lot of people, you know, when they try to go to like this grainy condition, which is, you know, maybe not in their genetic card, so like paper thin skin condition, and people say, you know, just get a little harder. You know, their physique, it's just not the same body. And I think that to some degree, someone already noted that last year when he lost to Hunter, you know, he was just flat, you know, and he might have been chasing condition. And the weird thing is, maybe 1 day out, 3 days out, 5 days out, 9 days out, 7 days out, he had that look.
Yeah.
But it's, you know, a lot of times you can reach a like level of condition where it's like, I am ready to go today, and the next day flat. Someone comes into your room and says, "What you eat?" They said, you know, you were tighter yesterday. Did you eat too much? Did you drink too much? And it's just that the body can't hold a crazy level of conditioning. I mean, I think he's doing this show. I thought, you know, this is his best. You know,
that's a pretty good shot right there.
Yes,
That side chest shot. It doesn't look soft to me in that shot, but
You
we
know,
weren't there, John. We
you know,
weren't sitting in the front row like you were.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well,
John would know better than us because he was there. John.
well, you mentioned last year when he was so flat, and I don't think he felt confident on stage being like that, you know? And I think he looked really, he felt good about himself. You could see it just the way he was standing there because he was so much bigger and fuller, and that's definitely a better look for him. And
that's a look that's going to do well on the Olympia stage, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I didn't know if Philip was going to, you know, pull an upset. I didn't think he would. But Philip was definitely more ripped. And if you just go by rip, but like Chris says all the time, it's not a conditioning contest. It's a bodybuilding contest. And I thought overall he had everything. Ian had everything that he needed to win. And I thought it was a good look for him. And it fits his physique because he is so wide and he needs to be full. And if he's flat, it just ruins his physique like it did last year. I mean, remember, people were talking last year he could have been lower than second. They were saying there was other guys in that top 5 that could have beat him. And I know like that look.
I'll put it into context. It's so funny. As Jay once said to me, I think about 18 months ago, he said, we're talking about different bodybuilders. And he said, do you think we talking about different people, and specifically said, do you think Ian VALLIERE will be able to fill out to be like a contender? He didn't say, do you think Ian VALLIERE will be able to peel down to be a contender?
Yeah.
You know, so in his mind, you know, guys won the Olympia 4 times, 3 Arnolds is, you know, that type of physique needs, you know, to fill out.
Yeah.
And
you'd fill Jay out right on 1,000 grams of carbs a day, wouldn't you?
Yeah, we'd fill him out and up to 290 on 1,000 carbs. And
that you told us about that day you guys tried to ultra fill him. You went to the sushi bar and loaded him, and then you had him eat ice cream. And
2001 Olympia. It was 8 or 9 days out. I thought he was flat, and I think he ate, honest to goodness, I wish we had iPhones. I think he was probably like 80 pieces of sushi, and then we went to the ice cream place next door. And I honestly think he threw up on the way home. And then I said, "No, you're full."
No, you're empty. You got to fill them up again.
Yeah, I would have gone home and had a shake after that if I would have thrown up. Yeah.
So let me ask you gurus this. Dave mentioned that maybe a couple of days ago, Ian looked full, you know, harder and grainier and had that look. I always blame this sort of mandatory diuretic course that everybody's got to take now the last week going in. And I believe that that's what robs that exploding out of your skin look that you saw them in their kitchen shot, you know, 3 days ago or a week ago. And why do so many of these guys look so good? I know the skylight in the kitchen is awesome, but discounting that, why do some of these guys look so freaking hard and grainy and chiseled, busting out of their skin? And then a week later, they show up the contest and they got that kind of deflated film over them. And I think it's the diuretics. I think people take them because they think they have to and not because they really need them.
You know what though, John? And this is my feeling is that my kitchen shots were great, but I don't think that they would have translated into as good a placing on stage, because when you're under those lights and you're all tanned up and everything like that, proportion and separate. I mean, there's a different illusion than when you're in your kitchen or you're in the gym, all pumped up, massively hydrated. If you did that on stage, you'd look like you're in guest posing shape as opposed to being in contest shape.
I agree with that 100%. But remember those shots of Dorian in the black and whites, and he was in his underwear with the socks on, and he was like 700 pounds, and he was like
that wouldn't have won the Olympia though, John. That look.
But I mean, but how do you go from that to? I mean, why wouldn't that have won the Olympia? He was like, you could not possibly have gotten harder than that.
He probably needed to be somewhere in between that, because he, by his own admission, said that he would a lot of times overdo it because he wanted to be so crazy hard. But I think that Ian really found a good balance. And look, I used to work with Phil, and Phil, I really applaud him on what he did here, because placing second here, against the odds was tremendous. And he's got a nice shape. He's got, he has the ability to get really, really hard. I didn't work with him this year, but in the past, you have to feed him. And he works hard. He never quits. He'll never say I won't do it. Whatever you tell him to do, he'll listen to. So he's got that right mindset. But I just think structurally that Ian is better, and I don't think Ian is soft by any means, to the point where I would say Phil's conditioning eclipsed Ian's wow factor, and I think that's why Ian won. I mean, and I don't know. We don't judge on here with us, but that's my gut instinct.
Dave, I'll give you an example. Here's how you measure Phil Klahar versus Ian, and the reason why Ian won. If Ian had come in, whatever his body weight is, 2 pounds or 3 pounds less, I think he still would have won. He might have been a little bit sharper. If he was 4 pounds quote fuller, he would have lost.
That's what was my
so point. In other words, could he be a little tighter? Nitpicking, yes. If he was quote fuller, just put him on the scale, 4 pounds heavier, 3 pounds heavier, 4 pounds heavier for sure. He wouldn't have had the detail for that physique. Ian wouldn't have, I don't think, to have overcome Phil. That's one, how good condition Phil was in, but two, that's how well peaked for his own physique to bring out the best look Ian was on that day. That's how I see it. So, the risk is on the upside, not on the downside for.
And it sucks when you can be your best and still lose, right? I mean, that's a mind fuck in a sense, because you're like, all right, here I am. I'm a pro. I'm at my best. And I got beat. It must be that the judges, screwed me. No, not necessarily.
You're talking about who, Phil or?
I'm talking about Phil, because Phil's got to be thinking in his head, "What? I can't do anything better. I can't look any better." I mean, really, I think a lot of people judge this show from the back, and I'm going to put the back post, because this is where Phil, I think, might have definitely edged out Ian, because he's very, very grainy from the back, and he's got a great back shot. I think from the front and sides, I think Ian definitely had him. But I think from the back, it was a knockout for Phil. And I think a lot of people see, all right, he turns around. This back double bicep wins it for him. I don't know how he loses, but the show is not judged by just a couple poses. It's the whole overall look.
Simple. He didn't turn his head.
When he went to the back pose, he was doing the Ronnie thing like this. Like, this is my pose. Watch out for this one. And he was very disappointed when he lost.
John, let me ask John, was there any shots in real life that you thought like, okay, Phil's winning, or?
I thought it was really close on all of them. Maybe the back, probably the back.
I think it was the back double. That's the only pose I see him win. I mean, he doesn't win the ab thigh shot right here. I mean, I don't think he wins the front poses, because Ian is just structurally huge.
He's a big guy and he's got good structure.
Yeah.
Ian didn't really beat him. Like if we talk about Charles Griffin, there's a guy that's kind of lacking in the structure. Phil is a tall, big guy with a good structure. So
I think Phil's body flows better, to be honest with you. But you're splitting hairs here.
Yeah,
who does, John? Let's say that the placings were flipped. Who do you think does better at the Olympia, though?
Oh, Ian, for sure.
Yeah. Why?
I think because if he comes in just a little bit harder, he's just got a better overall body.
Right. I think that could have been the convincing factor too.
Yeah.
Ian is a better Olympia guy. Even if Troy Alves was the king of and Darren Charles won, probably the two of those guys won more pro shows than anyone else out there combined. But at the end of the day, when they would go to the Olympia, they would get beat because they didn't really have Olympia-like physiques, right?
Yeah. And Phil came from 11th, I think, at Chicago Pro to second here. And he's like 47 years old. So this guy,
I know, he's amazing.
With what he did.
That's impressive.
Well, I think that they overlooked him. Chris Aceto and I talked about this when we did our wrap-up. They had to have overlooked him in Chicago.
Yeah.
Well, David. He's actually been overlooked for like 2 years.
Yeah, that's true.
He's one of these guys who's always like 8th. Could he been 4th? I guess so. In different shows, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
9th. Could he been 4th or 5th? Yeah, like the 4th and 5th and through 9th guy were bunched up. But having said that, it's great to see him at his all-time best, and then judges sit up and say, "Okay, put this guy right, in contention to win the show."
Right. Yeah, no, it was great. I think he should take this as a positive, not as a negative, for sure. Let's talk about Charles Griffin. Oodles of mass. I mean, the guy grows by leaps and bounds every year. Chris and I were talking about him when we did our wrap-up the other day, and we just said, he's got a very short torso. Does that hurt him, John Hansen?
Yeah, I just think his structure overall, he's kind of a little narrow, maybe bunched in a little bit, but lots of thickness. His traps, his back, his arms. He's just super, super massive. So, and his abs were washed out. So yeah. I think that also hurt him.
He reminds me of Charles Griffin, doesn't he? I mean, of Charles Dixon, excuse me.
Yeah, he reminds me exactly of Griffin.
Looks just like him.
Charles the Tank Dixon, that's who he reminds me of.
Yeah. But bigger. He's even bigger, I think.
Yeah, well, he's taller. Yeah. Charles, yeah. But I think I think he can be better than this. I think if he comes in harder, he's going to be more dangerous, down the road. I don't. This was not his best for sure.
He's been off a while too, right, Dave? He didn't compete last year, I don't think.
I think he took the year off. Yeah. Let's talk about Max Charles. What was your impression of Max Charles, John Hansen?
Just not hard enough. Just when he came out, I could see he just wasn't dialed in enough. I think
better or worse than Chicago.
Worse. I think he looked better in Chicago. I mean, I wasn't in Chicago or in Atlanta, but from the pictures, he looked better there.
What was better about him in Chicago?
Just overall conditioning, the hardness, especially like with the abs and stuff when he came out. He looked good overall, but I could tell he wasn't going to be in that top 3.
Was he visibly upset about the whole thing?
No, he didn't seem to be. I would say Philip took it the worst. The other guys seemed to be okay.
When you say that Phil took it worse, was he visibly upset on stage when they announced him?
Yeah. I mean, I think he was. You know how they pull up, I think, top 10 guys, and then they call 5 or 6, for the awards. So he was in the back, and he came walking up, and you could just see he was very disappointed. And then Ian came over and shook his hand and congratulated him, even though Ian knew he was going to be first. And but yeah, he took it hard. He was very psyched up, and he was like yelling on stage during the prejudging and at night. And he's from Tampa, so he might probably had a lot of people there.
Right.
But yeah, he was very disappointed. I think he thought he was going to pull an upset. But
we got it, John.
Well, I rightly so. I mean, he what else could he have done?
Nothing.
Exactly. So when you give it everything and you can stand there and legitimately say, "There's nothing left I could have done,"
right?
So that's the wake up call. I'm never going to win. I mean, it's just
the fact.
I don't mean never, but I'm saying if this is the best I could do, and I'm going to lose to him, who can still improve.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a mind fuck right there.
Oh,
well, you know what, John?
There's always someone better than you,
Yeah, well, the disappointment is that you not only that you bring your best, but he's probably bombarded after prejudging. You brought your best, and you realize as the bodybuilder, wow, I brought even better than I thought. You know what I mean? And then you get pumped up, and then you ask people, and the fact of the matter is, it was close, right? I mean, to some degree, it was close. Yeah. John says, different bodies. One's a lot tighter. The other guy's got a different structure. So you ask people after prejudging, people who are knowledgeable, you know, and they say like it could go either way. And you're thinking it's my hometown. Why not my way? And you know, who's improved more than this in the last 3 weeks? So you're going in with that set like I do have it.
Yeah.
People have huge expectations on Ian Valliere too. I think maybe too big of expectations on him. And so when they don't see him come in like they want him to come in their head, and Chris, this goes back to you, don't post any pictures on Instagram anymore because people have these huge expectations. I think it's a letdown. And when they see a letdown in their mind, they think, well, let's get the next guy who's in the best shape of his life. So in essence, Ian is creating his own worst situation by posting these insane pictures on Instagram, which he should be able to do. You know, you can do whatever you want. And then he comes into a show, and maybe people think that he's going to be Dorian Yates on stage, and they're not seeing Dorian Yates, even though he's really, really good, you know.
Well, people want to see, you know what, people are never happy. They want to see, you know, they want to see like Phil's condition on him.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Perfect bodybuilder every time. Yeah.
It's like when Phil was at the Olympia and he's like, you know, not peeled out of his mind, but really sharp last year, and not crazy full, but pretty full. People like, oh, done for good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The expectations is like people wanted to see Phil like all-time best, all-time best.
Right.
Yeah.
It's true. Let's talk about Mohammed Shaban, who comes in 5th place here. John Hansen, feedback?
Yeah, this guy's just got a great physique. I mean, he's got so much muscle. He's got a good structure, and just not hard enough again, like we've been saying before. Although he looks pretty good in that shot.
Yeah. How was he compared to the previous, 2 weeks earlier?
I can't remember what he looked like in Chicago, but in this show, it seemed like he was outside that top 3 or 4. I wasn't looking at him to place in the top 3 or 4. I was looking at those other guys. You know, when I was just looking at the prejudging, I knew obviously it was going to be Ian and Phil, and then Charles Griffin and Max Charles. I knew that was going to be top 4, and I didn't know where like Charles or Max might switch places. But I didn't look at this guy as being in that top group just because he just didn't have the conditioning.
Right. No, makes sense.
Same too, because he would look. He's got quite a bit of muscle there.
Oh
yeah,
wow.
He's got tremendous potential, I think.
Yeah. He's got to bring up his calves though. His quads are way.
Lonnie Teeper here on the panel with us.
I mean, look at those quads. Jeez, I mean, if he was shredded, that guy'd be dangerous.
Yeah. No, and we've seen him better. I think he could have been a little tighter. I agree with you. Let's talk about the 212 division, John.
Okay.
Kareth Baggio. I work with him, obviously. Give me your impression about Kareth and how you thought he looked on stage.
I thought he looked fantastic. I wasn't really familiar with him. Very, very thick, a lot of size, and he had good conditioning too. And I thought it was pretty close between him and that second place guy. But then I could see when we got to the finals, Kareth looked better. He looked harder. The other guy, I can't think of his name right now, but he was lacking a little bit from the back. But yeah, this guy's just super, super thick, really thick.
And he's got a great story because a friend of mine introduced us, several years back, and you talk about Ahmed El Dasani, actually, who was second, but and basically Kareth didn't know what he was doing. He was competing, but he really didn't have like a good structure. And I helped him out for a local show. Then he did the Team Universe, and he won the Masters and got his pro card. And I said, you're going to be a good 212 guy. You got a lot of muscle. And he just really worked his way up, added a lot of muscle, made a lot of improvements to his physique. COVID was really tough on him, as it was on everyone, I guess. And I think that what happened was people didn't really see him coming. And so when he finally arrived, this year at his best, after, going through everything he went through, he shocked a lot of people because they weren't expecting it. And now it's nice to see him validated. He's another guy that, is 39 years old. He's not, 20 in his 20s here. And he's, proving that your career is not over when you hit, 40, so to speak. He's just getting started.
Yeah, I think he could do well at the Olympia. I think maybe just a little bit tighter. But I think he could be in that top 5 at the Olympia.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that he has that ability. I think Ahmad El Dasani, who was second, could be at the Olympia and could do very well there as well. I mean, I think that we have a 212. We were talking about the 212 division having a little bit of a lull after Flex Lewis left, Jose retired. But I think we got a resurgence of new talent into this division that's going to make it tremendous. I mean, these guys are the great thing about the 212 guys is that they're always in shape, right? You don't see guys out of shape because you can't make weight otherwise. So,
yeah, this guy had fantastic shape and symmetry. He reminded me of, I love the old school bodybuilding and the guys from the 70s and 80s. And when he pulled that front double bicep, man, he just had a really, really nice look to him, a nice shape to his body. Wide shoulders, small waist. He's kind of got the short torso, longer torso, shorter legs.
Yeah.
But his front double bi was really fantastic. Just overall, great shape. He's got a really beautiful physique. So, and good size, good proportions. He's good balance. He just needs to come in just a little harder, especially like the glutes and hamstrings from behind. But really, a really nice physique.
And I'm sure we'll probably see him, I imagine, at the Texas Pro Show, right?
Yeah, he could, I think, pull off a win there for sure. He just needs to come in a little tighter.
I mean, he'd be a fool not to do it, right, at this point.
Yeah, for sure.
I think he's right on the cusp of of getting to that Olympia for sure. How do you think that Sean Clarita will do defending his title against some of these new freaks on the block, so to speak?
Well, if he looks like he did last year, I thought Sean was a pretty convincing winner last year. I was at that show, and I don't know, man. He was just so full of muscle and so hard and grainy. I mean, somebody's going to have to beat that. They're going to have to be that thick and that grainy to beat him.
Right.
I think Derek Lunsford is the guy to watch out for if he makes that class. I mean, I don't know.
I thought, isn't he going open now? Something like that?
I saw a video of him guest posing over the weekend. Man, he is a freak. I don't know how he's going to make it.
Yeah, I originally heard that he was going to move up to the open class. Chris Aceto, did you hear that?
No, I didn't hear that.
Oh, okay. Maybe I'm making it up then.
I don't know what he weighs now, but he's super big. And if he loses all that impressiveness by going down to 212,
I think he should stay as an open guy if that's not his goal already. I think it is, though. Let's talk about the classic physique winner, Urs Kalasinski. He reminds me of a guy from like the 70s. Look,
Yeah.
What was your impression of him?
This guy was one of the bright spots of the whole weekend. I think he's 22, 23 years old from Germany. This was only his second pro show.
Wow.
And you could just tell, man, he's got it in his, you could read it in his face. He's got all that enthusiasm and energy. Yeah. The world is his oyster right now, and he just loved it. And super shredded legs, great vacuum, a lot of enthusiasm on stage, and a great posing routine. I heard an interview with him. I guess his dad was an Olympic lifter and his mother was a ballerina.
Oh, really? Wow.
The strength background, and I'm sure his mom helps him with the posing routine. So, but yeah, this guy, he's got a great future.
Chris, how does this guy do at the Olympia, you think?
I think he does really well because I think that if you look at this is not actually a good angle for his front double. If you look at his front double straight on, it's phenomenal. The front lat spread. I don't even know if it's a mandatory pose, but it's a stand and relax day from the front. The standing relax from the front is bang on, perfect flow with, you get to see that you don't see the sweep in the thighs here really, but stand and relax. He's got tremendous sweep, tiny waist, low hanging lats, and most important, cap delts with super full pecs. You got to have full pecs to be able to, like Lee Haney, to be able to stand in the lineup and beat people all day long, Chris Bumstead has got, not super full pec, stand and relax. Of course, he's got the width, the lats, and the delts. But you adding pecs to that, when you got a tiny waist, it's like a bikini girl when she's got a tiny waist, and then she gets implants, and then I'm serious. There you go, right there, full pecs, tiny waist. That stance beats a lot of people.
He looks like a young Chris Aceto to me, if you ask me.
He does look resemblance. There's a resemblance there. Physique,
sure
too.
You don't have any German blood in you, Chris?
I don't know, Dave.
Even his dad.
He could be Chris's twin, this guy,
And I think he's still got 8 or 10 pounds more to go.
Oh, to make the class. Wow.
Yeah, that class. So, and he's
Bob
a young
Gruskin
guy.
would love him, man. Oh, my God.
Oh, God. Bob Gruskin said, we're going to do open. We're going to do
Open Olympia champ.
I saw Ian there, and he's not impressive compared to what you could be. You see him 1 year later, up 82 pounds.
Yeah, right.
Hey, I don't want to go through everything, John, because it's too much to go through here. But what happened with Steve Lorius? He took 4th in this class. I think he had to have been the favorite going into this event.
Oh yeah, when they first came out, I was looking at Steve Lorius, and I wasn't aware of that other kid that won at all. But yeah, he just wasn't hard enough. And when they called him up for the comparisons, he was standing relaxed. He wasn't staying tight.
Oh, really? That's weird.
Yeah. So, but obviously, unbelievable genetic potential, and he only got 4th. I thought he was going to get maybe 2nd. The guy who got 2nd was a pretty big guy, but Steve Lorius, I just thought had better shape, obviously, than anybody in the class. And obviously, I thought that kid was going to win because he was just so shredded, and you could just tell he had the attitude on stage, and he was just coming across better. Steve seemed a little subdued, maybe, like he wasn't really. Maybe he feels like
he's always a little subdued, though, isn't he? Isn't that his personality, though?
Yeah, he definitely needs to be more aggressive. I mean, with that physique. But he definitely wasn't hard enough, and that was his problem.
Well, maybe he didn't feel confident yet. I wanted to ask you one more thing about the show. Jeff Charrett, also known as Big Bad Bundy, he's a 280-pound open guy. I'm going to pull up a picture of him. I thought he was a little overlooked. I was looking at his pictures. He's pretty freaky looking. What did he look like on stage at the show?
Let me see the picture. I can't remember who. I remember people were talking about him. Oh, this is the guy with the huge
pop up.
He had a ton of hair. He had his hair all wrapped up.
Yeah, he had a lot of hair.
Yeah, he was good. He was big.
What do you think?
No pecs.
Yeah, he's just kind of a little narrow, kind of bunched up, right, in the shoulders. Good legs. I don't know.
He might need
really
a little more muscle, maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
Okay.
How tall is he?
He's very tall. I think he's over
Must
6
be
foot.
for 280. He looks like a string bean there. For 280? I mean, you hear that number, you think.
Yeah.
I think he's his pecs, and his pecs don't look good in that shot.
He looked good, Dave. He didn't blow me away.
Right. What do you think he needs to work on? More size?
Yeah, definitely better upper body.
His arms look good.
He's got some wow stuff because he's got good shape. I always, in a big guy, when you get good shape on stage, I think that they have, assuming they can put the muscle on, I think that that gives them. They got some good potential there. I know Guru Amin works with him. So
does he got a big following on Instagram?
Guru Amin had been sending me a lot of pictures of him prior to the show. That's why I was just asking, what you thought.
Well, I heard people in the audience talking about, but they weren't using his real name. They were using his Instagram handle, which I guess that's
Big
common.
Bad Bundy. Big Bad Bundy. Yeah.
We don't go by real names anymore. We just go by everything.
Big Bad Bundy sounds way better than Jeff Charrett, right?
Right. He's got a good Instagram name.
Except that Bundy is a serial killer, in real life.
Well, you better be scared of him. He'll knock you out and take you down. Overall, give me your overall impression of the whole show, John. Obviously, was it a typical Tim Gardner great production?
Yeah, I think he set a record for the amount of pros. I had it written down somewhere. I think it was like 366.
Wow.
Pros?
They got did they have wellness there? Yeah, they did, right?
Yeah, they had wellness too. Wellness wasn't that. They only had like 11 wellness.
Oh.
But like Figure had 48 competitors. It was crazy.
Oh, he has the wellness, yeah. Was the winner of the wellness Renee Jewett? That's not John Jewett's wife, is it?
John Jewett's wife, yeah.
Oh, it is. Okay, I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
Let's pull her up then. Hold on.
John was in the show too, but he was
I
off.
know. What was his? I heard he wasn't hard enough. Is that true?
Yeah, totally not hard enough. Definitely not even close to being in the top 3 or 4.
When you are,
But he was
get
third,
people
right?
used to being
Wasn't he third?
4th. I
What was
think.
he, third?
He was 4th, I think.
4th, yeah.
When you get people used to you coming in like ridiculously crazy shredded, like Andreas Munzer, like John Jewett does, and then you don't come in like that, even though you might be harder than a lot of other people, they judge you against your best. I don't care what anyone says.
Oh yeah, for sure.
That's John's wife, the wellness champ. So she's going to the Olympia, Renee. Congratulations on her. Who else kind of caught your attention at the show that we might not be aware of?
Let's see.
Now is this
Bikini? I don't know if you want to talk about bikini, but bikini was very exciting as far as
we
the
love
audience.
bikini. We love bikini, right, John?
They had Laura Lee Chapato, who won Chicago, and then they had Jennifer Dory, who was second in the Olympia, and then they had Who else? Oh, they had Ilsa Pacini, I think. She won the Olympia a couple years ago. All these girls were in one class. So it was kind of like an Olympia preview. So the audience was going crazy for that.
Oh, that's great. What about Lenka I can't even pronounce her name. Ferenchukuka. What's her last name? Ferenkukova.
The girl that won the
Women's
figure?
Physique. Yeah, women's physique.
Yeah, she was good. She was good.
Let me pull her up. Let's give her a little love here. John.
Oh,
compare her look to like the women bodybuilders from the 80s. Who's bigger?
Her.
Way bigger. Even the 90s, I think she might be bigger than the girls.
She could have given 91 Bev Francis a run for her money.
Yeah. I don't know why someone like her, even though, hey, look, she won women's physique. I mean, she made the right decision. I think she could win women's bodybuilding. She could do well in that.
She had a better structure than the girl that won women's bodybuilding.
And she's not rough looking either.
No, not at all.
Like pleasant to look at.
Where was she from? Russia?
Czechoslovakia. Czech Republic.
Czech Republic has always had good women bodybuilders. She's got some arms.
Yeah, I'll say.
Let's pull up the women's bodybuilder winner, Mona Porcelay. Let me see. I'm like Blackman. I got 6,000 browsers open, John. It's like slowing my computer down.
6,000.
I don't know why the computer's not working. Steve, you got 4,300,000 browsers open. I do.
Where's that girl's neck?
She's got to drop her traps. A lot of people don't really, I think. Although she might just have a short neck.
This is the bodybuilding winner?
Yeah.
Mona Porcelay, yeah.
Who's got the better front double of the previous?
The other one.
The women's physique girl could have won both.
Oh,
yeah, for sure.
Her arms are really short. She's got a funny looking physique.
Yeah, her structure was a little off. She was super shredded. I mean, really good condition, but her structure was off.
I'm still surprised that they're not encouraging more of the bigger women's physique competitors to do bodybuilding because, with Jake Wood, really supporting women's bodybuilding more than anything.
Yeah.
I mean, that the prizes are going to be ridiculous at the Olympia and the what's that other show? The Rising Phoenix show. If I'm on the borderline, I'm doing both. Don't you think, John?
I would do both. I mean, that the girl you just posted before beats her.
Yeah, I think so.
Can they do both though? I thought as pros you had to choose.
But I'm saying, I mean, from show to show, I would try to cherry pick the shows that have the most money. I would think and then if you want to win the women's physique Olympia, fine. But I would, she could probably easily pick off a bunch of people in the women's bodybuilding shows, and a lot of those shows have more money and more prize money than the women's physique ones do.
Yeah.
I think it's just smart shopping, so to speak. Let's give Andre Ferguson, our good friend, some love on men's physique. He's back.
Oh yeah.
Obviously, the one show he has never won is the Olympia. This show he seems to own. This Tampa show, he always wins this one. He's won the Arnold before. He's been second at the Olympia a few times. Do you think he comes back and snags an Olympia this year over Brandon Hendrickson?
I don't know. That's his big rival. He seems to have a hard time beating that guy, but he could. If he needs to come in hard. I know he only got 6th at the Olympia last year, so he was very disappointed at that. I think he's won 3 Arnolds already. Yeah. So the Olympia seems to be the contest he has the most trouble with.
And he's beaten Brandon. He's beaten Brandon before, just not obviously when Brandon's won the Olympia, but yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, well, he's definitely motivated, so he should come in much better shape for the Olympia.
Yeah. I got to take my hat off to Tim Gardner and the Wings of Strength people. They put these shows on every year. And when you have this many pros, remember, the pros don't pay to compete. And they got to give prize money to these divisions. They have every division at this Tampa show. It's got to be a huge financial burden to fund that purse, so to speak. And they do the show every year, no matter what, whether there's COVID or not. They always find a way to get this show done. And you know what? That's called the labor of love, because a lot of guys, from a business perspective, it's probably not the smartest business decision to have every single division here in this show because of the prize money. You can't have that many people watching it because of COVID, right? I mean, a lot of people, it's not the way it used to be where you can pack in a huge arena. Yeah. So the amateur show obviously provides some cash, but I mean, at the end of the day, if you didn't have a pro show and you just held an amateur show, you'd make a hell of a lot more money. So,
Why?
Although I do have to say the amateur show was super packed. When I left the pros, the line for the amateur, the audience coming in the amateur, was all the way down the hallway and outside the door.
I'm glad to hear that.
You had a good audience for the amateur show.
Dave, are you worried they're not making money?
I'm not worried about anything, but I'm just saying I know that Tim Gardner, because he loves the sport of bodybuilding, goes above and beyond what he needs to do.
No, he does.
Look at most of these shows, Chris. It's an amateur show where they make their money, and then they have 1 or 2 divisions for the pro shows because they can't afford to give that much money. Plus, I believe the purse was pretty nice for this show too.
Yeah, and Tim's always done that. He's always had all the divisions. And it runs like clockwork too, man. His team is so fantastic. I mean, that whole weekend was just nonstop. The prejudging went almost right up to the finals, and so they're rotating judges, and it was a very busy weekend, and they did a fantastic job.
The judges are really my heroes, because you know what? People love to criticize the judges and the judging, outcomes, but at the end of the day, those guys and women sit there at that judging panel for all day long prejudging. They get maybe they're lucky they get an hour break for lunch for dinner, and then they come back and they judge all night until late at night. And if they're lucky, there's a snack bar open to get a bite to eat. So and they don't get paid a lot. It's really a labor of love. So you got to give some love to the judges, because they definitely give a lot during these weekends, and they're, once again, all they do is get criticized. No one ever says, "Hey, great job, judges! You guys were awesome." They only criticize whatever decision people don't agree with, and I've never been a judge, and I've judged shows obviously, but I never wanted to be a judge, because it's a very big time commitment. You have to really be focused and on edge, and you can't be on your phone and doing that stuff, or you got to pay attention. It's very hard job.
Yeah.
So how come they don't charge entries for the pros?
Well, because it's, you're a pro now.
But I mean, wouldn't that make things a little bit easier? I mean, if everybody ponied up and then,
that's Gary Udit. Gary Udit holds the Pro Masters events, and he's like, you know what? I want to give these people an ability to compete in the 15 over, 16 over, 17 over classes, but the only way to really do it financially would be to have people contribute. So he charges an entry fee. It goes into a kitty, in a sense, and then the winners get that money that people pay in to participate, which is great. It's a great idea. It gives people a place to compete, and it's not going to bankrupt Gary Udit, for holding it.
Tim did have master shows also, Dave. He had a master's division with almost all of them.
Wow. Yeah, and that's a labor of love, because he's got to give prize money for those too.
Yeah, I'm not sure if they got prize money, but he did have them.
I think they get prize money, John. It might not be a lot, but they're getting something. They're getting $1,000, $2,000 or something like that.
Okay.
Believe me, I know Tim. Tim loves the sport of bodybuilding. It's not a smart business decision to have every single division at a show. It really isn't, because you can't make money. It's impossible. I remember I had this talk with Steve Weinberg years ago about why they had for a while they didn't have women's bodybuilding at the New York Pro. And I sponsored it for a couple of years with Species, just to get the women back in there. This was before Women's Physique came about. And I was, he's like, Dave, it's a financial thing. He goes, I can't afford to I'm going to lose money. So I ponied up the prize money for the show, and I sponsored it via Species a couple of years in a row, just to put it back in there. But at the end of the day, the promoter can't lose money on a show. Now, luckily, Tim has Wings of Strength as a sponsor. I know they probably put up a lot of money for these shows, but it's got to be financially feasible, and it's not the promoter's fault. It's just a fact. You can't lose money and run a show.
Yeah.
Chris, final if you have to final analysis of this whole weekend that we analyzed
of the bodybuilding weekend.
Yeah.
It's good to see that there's a very strong lineups in both the 212 and the open bodybuilding. Last year, right, we were here, in the heat of COVID, or at least closures and all that, and were shows even going to go on and all that. So it's great to see that bodybuilding's mostly back. And, although it's an exciting weekend, there's a little damper on it, coming full circle back to the passing of John Meadows.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. John Hansen, what was your overall impression as a whole? I mean, you were there the whole weekend.
Yeah, I thought it was a great show, and I mean, it definitely looks like the pro divisions are very strong because they have so many competitors. And I think we're going to have a really good lineup at the Olympia with Ian, and we still got a couple more shows to go, especially the Arnold. So I think it's going to be a really good Olympia this year. And it definitely looks like it was stronger than last year.
John Romano, the loss of John Meadows, how will that affect our industry?
I think the same as all the other guys who died, surprisingly and prematurely. It's just one of those things that's going to, hit us in the head for a while. And then, weeks, months are going to pass, and it's going to, fade into memory. And, the next guy is going to shock us all. So he's not the first. He's not the last. It's just part of the deal. And we're going to have to deal with it. So there's nothing you can do.
And you know what?
He may have more of an impact, Dave, because he contributed so much, with his videos and stuff, with the YouTube. I mean, he was very prolific as far as, being out there and really making an impact.
That's a good point, John. I mean, he's when you have someone that contributes like that repeatedly for a long time, and he's got that reputation of doing that, and then all of a sudden he's gone.
Yeah.
It leaves a hole. It leaves a giant hole, and there's nobody to really walk in and fill it, And I mean, ultimately it probably will, but not tomorrow.
Well, it's a couple of people asked me, and I about what my thoughts were. I did a nice tribute to him last night. I put up on the RxMuscle YouTube channel. If you guys want to check it out, but that was just kind of my spiritual, insight. But as far as what he contributed to our industry, I think you have to look at it as a body of work, that he left us with, because a lot of people have a lot of knowledge and they're not willing to put it out there because they have to hoard it. Like, I'm the secret guru coach. I'm not going to tell anyone about my secret methods or anything like that. And there's a lot of people like that. I'm not going to mention names. We know who they are. John and I, the reason why we resonated, why we got along so well is because we kind of did the same thing. We said, hey, you know what? Bodybuilding is not that hard. There is a method. There is a way to quantify it. There's a way to scientifically, put it together so that anyone can do it. And he put a lot of knowledge out there with regards to training and stuff like that. This was kind of forte. He liked to be in the gym. I try to do that with nutrition and supplementation and performance enhancing drugs. I try to quantify, put this body of work out there. I'm not trying to hide it. Here it is. Here it is. And you know what? If you think I'm telling you the same thing, it's because this is the truth, the science of what's going on. I'm not afraid to share it with you, because when I'm not here anymore, and hopefully I'll be here for a lot longer, annoying the crap out of you guys, but when I'm not here, I want you guys to have that body of work and then take that and then go further with it, just like what you're going to do with John Meadows' training methodologies. And so in essence, his life, as far as from a bodybuilding perspective, was completely fulfilled. He achieved what he wanted to, which was a pro card. He was able to compete in a pro show in place. But more importantly, he was able to educate people and share his experience and knowledge with a huge, vast array of people, whether the people who came in and trained with him, or the stuff he put out on his website, or the videos he put out. And that stuff is not going to leave. It's there forever. And so we should be happy, and we should be, grateful that he was able to share that with us. And that we are going to be privy to that for the rest of our days. And so, John Meadows, I want to thank you for doing that for us. And you will be missed. You're in our prayers. We pray for your family. And if anyone starts to GoFundMe, you can let me know, and I will be more than happy to publicize that, because I want to make sure that his family is well taken care of. And final thoughts, Chris, on anything? John Meadows, really?
On John Meadows?
Yeah.
I think that's, you could use this cliche, what needed to be said has been said, but at the same time, so much more could be said. Yeah. And that's, again, he's a gentleman, and there aren't many people like him around anymore. Yeah. Who are universally, at least in the bodybuilding realm, not only respected because of what they know and what they do, but they're respected as a person. He's and that's why the impact has been so big. I think it's, we talk about the training stuff and people he's trained and his accomplishments, all those. I mean, there's other people who have put out training stuff and put out diet stuff and all those things. but he's respected by athletes and officials, and he's an impeccable type person that people, you strive to be like that. Like I said at the beginning, on the tombstone, or in the obituary, first it just keeps coming to my mind: beloved, well respected, and I like everyone else has said, people come and people go, but you have to worry, not worry, but thoughts and prayers for his kids, really, his wife, but his kids. It's hard to be left with without a father, and he's a leader amongst bodybuilders and somebody who knows how to lead and set an example. So can you imagine how well he leads and encourages his kids? So that's the big losses for them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, once again, we send all our prayers and condolences out to the Meadows family. For now, that we are out of time. Until next week, remember, with Heavy Muscle Radio,
the truth
hurts.
Good night, everyone. See you next week.